Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel. It's Wednesday night. We're here with the Evermore podcast. I'm your host, Chris. And as it's Christmas week, I've been joined by two of my other fellow wise men. I've got the stat man, Mark, to the left of me here, or the right of me. I can't remember which way I'm going here. And a long time no see, we've got our man from across the pond, Adam Beckett. How are you doing, lads?
Great.
Good evening, mate.
It's good to see you, boys. And a great week again. Newcastle United are back with a bang. I say a bang, mind you. That's maybe not the best way to describe that game, but we'll get stuck into that in a minute. But we certainly are back, that's for damn sure. So just before we get stuck in, a little bit of housekeeping. If you haven't already, smash the like and subscribe button. We'd love you to come and join us. We're on about 2,177 subs, I think we are now. I always try to check before I come on. We're very close to 2,200. So it's been a monumental first year for us at Evermore. You know, myself and the rest of the boys, we all massively appreciate everyone who's hit that button. We've got loads more room for you if you're new watching. All free content. This we don't charge anybody for what we do. Just fans that love talking about the club. And we've even got some more Evermore updates in this episode, which I'm sure you'll all get excited about when we get stuck in. So let's get stuck in. As I say, we're live as well. Join in the comments, as many of you do, many of our regulars do. We've got a few comments in there already, but we'll just jump in as we go, and obviously we'll pick them out and try and have a bit crap with you as we go. So the first topic is we are back, and we are back with a win. It might not have been a great win, but it was a win nonetheless. Adam, coming to you first, mate. Did you get a chance to watch the game? Obviously over there, I'm sure you did, because you got better TV than we have. How did you find the game, mate?
Yeah, I did watch it. I thought we were by far the better team. I think really only one team was going to win that. If there was going to be a goal in it, it was probably going to be us. I think I'm still a little baffled about the Callum Wilson goal. Maybe I've not seen enough replays.
I've seen enough as well, yeah.
What happened there? It looked like maybe, was it Willock that was sort of on the floor? Maybe he touched it on the way through. I'm not entirely sure, but it was a nice finish by Wilson. And really, we sort of dominated that game, looked good enough to win it 2 or 3 times over. It's a bit like the friendly game at the weekend. It sort of seemed like we were almost playing with an extra man. It always seemed like there was someone in space, which is, I think, part of why I love watching this team at the minute. Always looked like a pass was on really all game. So yeah, we probably didn't hit, 5th gear or maybe even 4th gear, but we didn't really need to either. If we'd been at our best, we probably would have won 3 or 4-0, but you don't get style points in the League Cup. You just got to win. So I'm glad we're through and on to the next round.
Absolutely. It's many people are saying it on social media as well, Adam, but it doesn't matter how you win, really, as long as you win, especially in cup games. But it's been so long since we've been starved of cup success, really, isn't it? I'd take a 1-0 off somebody's face in the back of the net, to be honest with you, any day of the week. Over a brilliant performance. I mean, there was some great standout players. Mark, obviously, I jumped on and did the post-match afterwards. I thought Bruno just looked class in the middle again, and I kept watching him thinking, what was that Brazilian manager on, watching him in training? Why didn't he play more in the World Cup, mate? He was absolutely class, I thought.
Yeah, look, it was back to business for him, wasn't it? Running the show, he looked exceptional. But you're right, there were a few that it wasn't. Let's be fair, it wasn't the greatest game in the world. I don't think Newcastle ever got out of second gear. They didn't have to get out of second gear. That Bournemouth were very, very poor. I know they were hampered by illness in the squad, weren't they? So, but it was an uncomfortable win in the end, I think, because I think it should have been a wider margin. If Miggy, scores the absolute sitter that he misses, I think the Wilson one obviously should have stood. The only thing I can think of is they thought the ball's touched Willock as it's gone through, but even on the still, it looks like he's in line. I think if that goes to VAR, it's given.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have a look. I thought we still had that actually. I'm just trying to look at the images that I had. I'm sure that I had that still somewhere.
I think what was.
Get it from, here we go.
There what was strange.
Go on, Adam. Sorry, that's a still.
Yeah, I was just going to say this exactly what you're showing there sort of shows that Willock is probably onside. He's also he's not involved in the game by the time he's fallen on the floor. It doesn't make a difference whether it comes off him or not for me. Although I was really happy with the finish. I mean, a great finish by Wilson. Just wish it had stood, because I just think it's going to be so important for him to be on the score sheet, not just playing well, but also on the score sheet. So I would have taken a 1-0 with him being the goal scorer. Would have been sort of the perfect night in many ways. And yeah, I forgot about the Almiron miss. Oh my God, I must have just blocked that out. But it was almost one of those. It's almost one of those that you don't really believe that he didn't score. It's like I must have just missed it when it went in or something, because it just, how did he not score that? It was a bit worrying that might be the old Miggy coming through, but hopefully he's just getting that out of the way, before Monday, before the rest of the season. So we'll let him off because he's had obviously one hell of a run. So that was quite funny, wasn't it?
I did laugh at some of the fans panicking, saying, "Oh no, he's had a hard reset. He's gone back to what he was before," which is quite funny. But Ash is saying there, if anything, will it rolled out the way? Mark, I think he's got a point there. I mean, it does look like, as Adam said there, he's in line with the play. Which to me, I think that poor refereeing, in my opinion. Davey's saying a win is back. When Bruce was here, we'd have lost that game. I agree with that. Mark, do you think if Bruce was in charge, would have got done
I think you need a little bit of ruthlessness back that you've had in previous months, but it's a good sign that you can go into a game, not play well, and still win, and still do enough to win. They didn't have to expend any extra energy. It didn't have to go to, it wouldn't have gone to extra time anyway, but they didn't have to do anything else. It didn't go to penalties. There was no worry in that regard. It could and should have been more comfortable in the end, but it's just a solid win, solid performance, no worries at the back, nice and calm. I suppose the only worry was the first couple of minutes when Shaw got hit in the head. But he was fine. So, everybody came through it unscathed. You move on now and you take the momentum again from a win. And I guess that was always kind of the worry, wasn't it, coming back after the break, that you've been on such a good run that you come out of it and can you pick up where you left off? And although the performance wasn't quite there of the performances against, Southampton or against Villa, it was still a win. It was still that positive, let's carry on.
Absolutely. It's amazing that Shaw stays so handsome, Adam, isn't it? He's in that many collisions. He seems to spend more time on the deck, doesn't he, than he does in the air these days.
I was about to make a point there, actually. I don't know whether it's just I'm hypersensitive to it now because I'm so keen to keep everyone fit and healthy, but it seems like a lot of our lads go down all the time. I mean, St. Maximum, obviously, he set a very high standard for that sort of thing, diving around like a maniac. But like even Trippier, like every game, Trippier seems to go down, gets treatment, and everyone holds their breath for a minute or two. But then he's off flying down the wing again. So I don't know whether it's just a sort of a trend or whatever amongst players, but it seems like a lot of our lads go down and seem to get hurt in most games. But I sort of finished the point I was making about this game that it was so important to win this one, because it's just, winning becomes a habit. It sort of becomes addictive, and it's a feeling that players obviously get used to and want to have more and more. But more importantly, I think for the back five, clean sheets, just the routine clean sheets. I think it's 9 in the last 16, something manic like that, which is just, unheard of, obviously, for a Newcastle team, but unheard of really for any team. And for those lads at the back, having a clean sheet is sort of like Callum Wilson scoring a goal. Like Absolutely. It becomes addictive. It becomes a routine or a rhythm. So clean sheets are just as good as goals, obviously, for the team. So I'm delighted that we got another clean sheet. And as Mark said, other than that save at the end, Pope really had nothing to do. But you do know that in a cup run, whether it's in one game or over the course of a season, you are going to need your goalie just to make an occasional really good stop like that. And he was right there to make it. He hadn't lost his concentration, which was important right at the end there. But good save.
Absolutely. Mark, just a couple of players. Not to put a negative on it, because Adam's right. It's a good win, a great win. Win a cup quarter final. You look at the rest of the teams that are in it, we've got a really good chance of certainly getting to the final, if not doing one better. But I think just for me, a couple of observations that I pointed out, and I think I definitely mentioned it on the post-match, that this whole Dan Burn at left-back thing, great when he's at the back. Going forward, he's very limited. It's one thing, just to get your take on it. And the other thing was, I thought Joe Linton looked a bit rusty as well. We'll get Adam's take as well after yourselves, Mark. But what was your take on those two? Did you think they were struggling a little bit in the game? How did you think they did? Am I being a bit harsh?
Maybe a little. Look, that was said. I don't think that the side as a whole got out of second gear. So him looking rusty, I guess that's no big problem. It was a stroll, so you don't mind that. As long as he's up to speed for the weekend, you absolutely, you take that on Boxing Day and he picks back up again in his league form. Burn, I think you're right. I think certainly going forward. I mean, to be fair, Burn puts the ball across the goal for Miggy's miss, doesn't he?
He does. It's a great ball
across.
Yeah.
But he's so hesitant in that area. Like, there were a number of times where I think if that's Matty Target, the ball gets whipped across the box.
Something's not right for Target, though, is it? Something's not right. I don't know what's going on there.
I wonder whether it's just the fact that Burn has played so well that Howe just doesn't feel the need to pull him out at the moment. And I guess at some point you've got the chance to then change if it's not working. I do think I think you touched on this last night. It's a particular, I think, area of need going forward if you're going to progress that particular side, with a more competent attacking fullback. I think is probably going to be a need going into next season, certainly. But it is interesting watching Burn play that he does get high, and then is almost his instinct is, I've got to find another player to do something to create a chance rather than try and create it himself. It's like nosebleed territory, and he gets in that position. He realizes he's so far out of position that he's worried about getting back. But he showed last night with that ball across that he's got it in his locker. I just think he's not got that consistency in that area, and I think sometimes when you get into those positions, you miss Target's left foot.
And I think just getting your take on that, and then on the Burn side, then we'll come back to Joe Linton, because I thought Bruno carried Joe Linton's arse most of the night. I thought he lost the ball a few times. I thought Bruno was brilliant, and I think he really helped Joe get through that game. What's your take on the Burn situation? Because I said in the post-match that I think the team's off balance a bit when he's there, because he hasn't got that ability to go up and put the balls in, as Mark says, consistently, and then get back and do what he does. What's your take on the Burn at left back thing? Does it need to be addressed?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you've both said there, really. I think it just boils down to that back five has been so consistent, and they've kept so many clean sheets that at the end of the day, Howe is a coach that's sort of renowned for rewarding good team performances, right? I just think that Matt Target's been incredibly unlucky. He came out of the team during a time where we were drawing a lot of games. I think he got sick or something, so he missed a game, and Dan Burn came in. And we just basically haven't given up that many goals since then. So it's very hard to change the sort of lineup at the back when you're keeping so many clean sheets. So I just think Matt Target's been incredibly unlucky. I also think Dan Burn is just sort of this is the problem that left-footed centre-backs have. Everyone just assumes they can also play left back, right? We don't do that with right-footed centre backs, right?
Nobody does. Yeah.
No one's sticking Shah at right back just because he's got a right foot. I used to joke when I was a kid, because I was a left-footed player, that like coaches would play me left back, left wing, and left centre forward all in the same game, because I was usually the only left-footed player on the team. And Dan Burn's got a little bit of that curse too. I don't think he likes playing left back particularly either. But again, it's either that or sit on the bench, right? Because no one's displacing Sven Botman out of that team. So I think it really just boils down to Eddie Howe not wanting to change a winning formula. And it's not like we're winning 3-2 and 4-3 and we are giving up goals, but winning at the end. We're dominating games from the back and keeping clean sheets. So unfortunately for Matt Target and obviously for Jamal Lewis still plays for Newcastle, like there's just not a spot at left back at the minute for someone to come in.
It's not broke, don't fix it type thing, isn't it?
Basically, yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. And I think, on Joel Linton, I think maybe we're being a bit overly critical just because of how good he has been.
Because the standards have been so high.
Yeah, like Mark said, it was a game where a lot of players were playing at sort of 50-60% of their potential, and it was enough to get through. I also think that Joel Linton really is one of those players, and Bruno similar, who sort of raises his game to match the occasion. A lot of his best performances. I mean, I thought Chelsea, for example, in that second half, when they put him back into the middle, he's more comfortable in the middle there, and with Willock out on the wing, or Sir Maximin or whoever out on the wing. So I think the change of position, one thing, but also just the sort of the occasion itself meant that maybe he and Bruno only needed to play at 50 or 60%, and I expect him to pick up his form in the bigger games, starting on Monday, hopefully.
Well, fingers crossed. We'll definitely get stuck into that in a minute. But just sticking with the game, and there was a notable absentee, Mark. This has been going round and round on social media. I've seen some great conspiracy theories. He's got a heart problem. He's whatever it may be. There's loads of these things kicking off, like most fans do when they shit themselves when a player has been missing for some time. As I mentioned in the preview and the review, that we have had a little bit of information that we don't want to reveal where it come from, but it might make people feel a little bit better. But just on the Alexander Isak thing, Mark, obviously he's been held back. He's obviously had an injury for a long time. Eddie Howe has been quite honest with it up front, saying he doesn't want him back until he's fully back to 100% and firing. Is there a problem with Isak, mate, or are we just being sensible with managing his fitness? What do you think?
I think look at your other centre forward and how mismanaged he's been previously.
Very much so. Yeah.
And I think that's your answer. I think that pulls it down to quite a quick point. Wilson has struggled with injury and then has been rushed back. And I guess the bonus is while Wilson is fit, you don't need to rush anybody. And if he needs an extra 2 weeks to get fully fit and without any concerns, you take the extra 2 weeks. You spent an awful lot of money on him, and hopefully we'll get a good return in that in sort of goals and stuff. But you don't want to break him. And if there are tweaks, there are issues there, then you give him the extra time to get fully fit. We did cover that, didn't we?
We did. With
the rumored swap deal. That was a mad one. But no, I just think it's being cautious, and Eddie Howe's shown that he is willing to be cautious and give people the time that they need to come back or get used to the game. My example for this was always Bruno. When everybody was screaming for him to be in the side, he took his time and he allowed him to acclimatise to the league and then play. I think with Isak, he needs to do exactly the same thing, just for a different reason. He needs to get him back fully fit, back up to speed, and then unleash him. There's no point in bringing him back at 60 or 70% fitness, which is what we've seen from Wilson before.
I mean, Adam, you're a massive fan of the lad, and is there a sense of Newcastle fans almost reverting back to where we've always been, where we're worried about Shearer being injured or even Owen or Ferdinand or whatever? We're unbeaten in 10 games. Callum Wilson is fit, touch wood, is fit, and he is playing well, and he is scoring goals. He should have scored a goal the other night. Do you think it's a sense of, Mark says there, just everybody just calm down a bit and just trust the manager and trust the fitness, team and everything else that's involved, mate?
Yeah, I mean that's definitely the case, but that's no fun, is it? I mean, with social media and the different reporters we all listen to, it has heightened all of our sense of controversy, hasn't it? So it's sort of who we are now as a fan base, right, wrong, or indifferent. But Mark made a number of good points there. Conspiracy theories aside, I think when they signed him, he wasn't totally fit. I think Eddie Howe sort of said that since that they knew he had a bit of I think it was actually not the problem he has now, but it was sort of a hamstring type issue that was very minor, but it meant that was sort of playing on their mind. I think that's why they took him off in his first game against Liverpool after he'd scored. He got injured, then he got injured again. So it's already reoccurred once. That's probably a bit of a warning to them that maybe they pushed him, or maybe the pace that they were pushing him at the first time was too fast for him. Whether it was too fast in general or not is irrelevant. Just for the individual player, he may heal a little slower than they originally thought he was healing. And again, we're on such good form, similar to the Matt Target thing in many ways. He probably wouldn't be getting into the starting team, the starting 11 the minute anyway. Callum Wilson is fit enough to play. Isak's got some versatility, but we've got options in both positions that he plays in. And it's very similar in some ways to how they treated Shelvey, Wilson, and St. Maximin right before the break, right? Those last couple of weeks there. I think Wilson had COVID, as it turns out, but they were sort of each game it was going to be sort of 50-50 as to whether they came back. And he went with Wood in the cup. He went with Wood against Chelsea. Probably could have played Wilson if they really needed him. Wilson comes on at the end of the Chelsea game just for a bit of fitness work. St. Maximin Shelvey didn't even play against Chelsea, despite being on the bench. So in some ways, I think it's a number of things at play. It's one that you might just be a bit of a slow healer and they're being very careful with their record transfer. Two, other players are in good enough form and are fit at the same time, which is rare for a lot of our lads. And then it's just the idea that we've got so many games in the second half of the season. I mean, we're not actually even halfway through the season yet. We've got 4 games to go until we're halfway through the season because of the international break. So there's plenty of games to go. And I think we'll see plenty of him. And to Mark's point, if we can get 2 more weeks out of him, fitness standpoint, it reminds me a bit of what they did with Wilson at the end of last season, where they sort of held him back a couple of weeks, but then he was ready to go 90 minutes as soon as they brought him back, which is a smart way to do it if you've got the players around you. If we didn't, the irony of this, of course, if we didn't have Chris Wood, then we wouldn't have a backup striker. So we all joke. There's plenty of jokes to be told about Chris Wood. But if we didn't have Chris Wood at the minute, there would not be a backup striker, and that would be really worrying. And so the fact that we've got 2 fit strikers at the minute is probably giving us a bit of leeway with Isak.
It's okay. The snow's gone away. I'll drive to Liverpool, pick up Rondon and bring him back, lads. Don't worry about it. He can still do a job. Not a very good one, but he can still do a job, to be fair. But Mark, just a point on Isak. You've got some stats in terms of previous injuries that he's missed, mate. I mean, he's not an injury-prone player, is he? And he's still a young lad. He's not had a what you would say a bad injury in his career. And with being such an explosive player, and Adam makes a great point. He's come from La Liga, a much slower-paced league than the Premier League. There's got to be a bit of adjustment there as well, hasn't there? We've got to understand that.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you look at his record over the last couple of seasons before he moved to Newcastle, he'd only missed 5 games total. I think 4 of those were a hamstring injury, and one of them was 1 game out with a knee problem. Prior to that, I think you've got to go back a couple of years before he missed any sort of game through injury. So I guess there's no historical injury issues there. It's just he's caught one this time. Yes, it's kept him out. I think it's now 10 games that he's missed in total. But it's just about being keeping faith with the staff and the manager and the medical team and stuff, and just going, they know what they're doing. They've seen problems like this before. And like Adam said, maybe they did push a little bit too much to start with, especially with a change of pace in the league that he's come from. And it's just about being sensible now, and not being too overreactive to what's going on. But we all love a conspiracy theory. We all love to get involved in the crap that goes on social media. So that's just more fun than anything else.
Yeah, do you know, I think we're conditioned though, because we've had so many years of this. We've had Owen, we've had Woodgate, we've had these really good influential players that have just perpetually been injured. Ben Arthur injuries, ASM injuries, and I just think it's hard to wash that off, isn't it?
Don't forget Paul Dummett. He's been injured for 5 years, I think.
I mean, what is going on about that? Honestly, it's like that Buzzcocks on Twitter when they go, where the fuck's he been for the last 10 years? That is Paul Dummett. That's literally Paul Dummett every time he gets a game. But I think he'll retire personally, Dummett. I think I'd be shocked if it's not the end of this season. I think he'll retire and maybe go into the coaching setup potentially, Adam. It's a good point to raise that, mate. But on the Isak one, just get your take on this, Adam, your take on this. If he's fit, so we got on good authority through just some of the crack that we've heard. He's probably only going to be a couple of weeks away. So maybe Leeds we might see him, whether that's on the bench or whether that's from the start. If Isak is fit and firing, say he comes off the bench against Leeds, turns a game, scores 2 goals or whatever, with Wilson alongside him, salivating at the prospect of this, mind you. But where would you play Isak? Would he be on the bench for the next game, or would you put him in a front 3 with Wilson and Miggy? Because you said he's got versatility, Adam, you mentioned it. Do you take a bit of his game away, sticking them out wide, or are we going to go 2 up front? What would you do with him?
Yeah, I mean, what a nice problem to have, by the way.
Brilliant, isn't it?
We haven't had this problem in, well, I don't know, a really long time, since the Demba Ba, Papis Cisse ordeal. I mean, it ended up with Ba playing mostly on the left wing, but I don't know, to be honest, Chris. I'm not sure there's an easy answer to that. Like I said, other than just being really happy that that's a problem for Eddie to work out. I don't think you can not play Callum Wilson if he's fit, because it's so rare that you get a run of games out of him.
And he leads the line so well, Adam. He's so good at leading the line, isn't he, man?
He is. And he's our number 9, and he's our number 9 for a reason. And he's obviously well liked by the fans. That said, if he goes 4 or 5 games without scoring, then you've got an excuse to drop him. Obviously, I hope that never happens. I also hope he stays fit for the rest of the season. That's far less likely, obviously. But I think with Isak, you do obviously you lose a bit anytime you take a player out of their natural position. And if ASM is playing well and scoring goals, if Miggy is still playing well, scoring goals, then yeah, he is going to have to make do with a place on the bench. What an impact player to have, coming off the bench. I'm not bothered about the whole sort of you've got to play your record signing type thing.
Yeah,
I don't think Eddie would have gone for that. If they had said, well, yeah, we'll sign him for 60 odd million, but he's got to play every week. Eddie, I don't think he would have worn that. So I'm not worried about that part of it. I'm more happy about the fact that we've got 4 really good options to take up 3 spots, and that would be fine by me. I've got no worries there. To Roger's point, I'm not sure. Big Al had a little bit more leeway than Callum Wilson. As much as we all love Callum Wilson, Alan Shearer could have gone a whole season without scoring, and he still would have played every game probably.
Yeah, I think when Shearer got a bit older, did he? When that season he broke the record against Portsmouth at the Gallagher. He did go a lot of games without scoring, didn't he? He wasn't the Alan Shearer that he was.
Yeah.
But just in those little moments, he would turn them around. Mark, just to finish on the Isak point. Audie's a big Isak fan as well. Sadly, Audie couldn't be with us tonight. So, whatever's going on with Audie, get back soon, mate. We'll miss you on the channel, pal. But with Isak, he's the long-term replacement for Wilson in my eyes, because I think Eddie Howe is seized on getting a really good young player who's had an indifferent season, it should be said, at Sociedad. So we got him cheaper than we probably would have paid for him. But he's got that ability. He scores those goals. He's got that burst of speed. I still think he's a little bit slight for the Premier League. Maybe we'll bulk him up a little bit more. I don't know. But he'll be the long-term successor to Wilson. Do you think we'll see them as a 2? Do you think we'll ever see them as a 2? Do you think that there's options? Or will that change the whole dynamic of the side?
I think that probably changes too much of the way that Eddie Howe has the side set up to play. I think you're much more likely to see him play in a fluid 3.
Yes,
where
interchangeable positions.
Exactly. Yeah. And that makes far more sense in this type of system that Eddie has set up with a 4-3-3. He's proved that he can play down that left hand side. I mean, you look at the way that he sort of tortured Liverpool at times from the left hand side. So he's proved he can do that. He's played there previously. Ideally, you want him through the middle. But if you can rotate, if you can move them around during games from game to game, it gives Wilson some breathing space as well. And we touch on this when you bring him in. It means that you don't have to play Callum Wilson for 90 minutes every single game. And
if you can save him for games, you don't have to play him against Leeds or Southampton. You can save him for that game. Absolutely, yeah.
But it also means that during a game, you can bring him off after 60 minutes, move Isak sort of into a more solid central position and maybe bring Saint-Maximin in down that left-hand side. So there's loads of options. And Adam touched exactly the point before. It's a wonderful headache to have in that regard as to what you do with them. But it just allows you to be a lot more fluid up there. It's very rigid at the moment because it's very Miggy one side at the moment, probably Murphy or Saint-Maximin the other, with Wilson through the middle. It just allows you to open that up and just give defenders and give opposition teams much more of a headache not knowing who's going to be in what position.
I mean, to be fair with Isak, that Liverpool game, he made Virgil van Dijk look like Dick Van Dijk, didn't he? Had him on toast. He was all over the place. It was an absolute thing of beauty. As Gibbo says, our middle 3 are fluid, so I'm guessing our front 3 can be too. Absolutely. We were talking about the middle 3. I still think if you were to have a holding player in certain games like City's and Liverpool's, and where you're going to have a bit of press coming the other way, it would free up maybe Bruno to go a little bit 10, 15 yards further up the park, because that's where he does most of his damage. But obviously the January window will decide that. But talking about potential new players, nice little segue here into the next game coming up, because there's a little bit of a side story on this one, Adam, isn't there, in terms of the Leicester game? So there's a certain Leicester City player that we've been courting for some time, mate, and he's been on the lips of every Newcastle fan. So obviously we're playing him on Boxing Day, and the big question is to a lot of Newcastle fans, is James Maddison going to start for Leicester? There's loads of ITK shit going around, but what do you think, mate? Do you think Maddison will play against us, or do you think we might see him get rested? What do you think?
Well, I'm not even sure he's fit, is he? I mean, he didn't play at all for England at the World Cup, from what I can remember. Anyway, I know he was on the bench, but not used. So he's not played. Whether he's going to play or not on Monday, he won't have played for more than a month coming into that game. So he won't be at his best. I mean, he's an excellent footballer. I would love to see him at Newcastle, although I'm not entirely convinced he fits the profile. That's for a debate for another time, probably. I think he's a good footballer, and Leicester are in good form. So this will not be the sort of easy game that we would all like to come back into the Premier League, which I think is why it was so important that we played and won last night, so we weren't going straight from the break into the Leicester game. I know they won as well pretty convincingly against a lower league team. I forget who it was now, but they won 3-0. So they'll be feeling good about that going into Monday, and it'll be a tough game. I just think, assuming there's not a big drop off in our play, I'm not sure who's going to beat us at the minute. So I don't know what the score will be. I don't know what will happen, but I just feel so good about the way we're playing and who Eddie's putting out in the lineup. I was so impressed how strong he went last night. I think it was excellent to have a full strength team last night. So that bodes really well. I don't care if we're playing Man City away on Monday. I just feel like we're going to beat everybody at the minute. It's such a nice feeling.
Absolutely. I'm just looking there that Gibbo's right. He wasn't in the squad for the Milton Keynes game, so he was rested. That might just been a whole. He's been away at Qatar and whatever, and we don't need him against Milton Keynes type thing. I'm just trying to look at the Sports Mole team news here, Mark, and there's no mention of Maddison here.
He is set to feature. Well, what that means, I don't know, but the reports were that he is set to feature on Boxing Day, so I guess that will be from the start.
It's got to be.
He's a big.
They've got to play their best players, haven't they? They've got to try and get a
big
result.
Game player, and he's had plenty of rest. Like I say, he hasn't kicked the ball in Qatar. He's gone plenty of time, and I think the reports were that he's up to speed. I think they knew they didn't need him last night. It was what was it 3-0 against MK Dons, so there was no need to push it. There's plenty of players that can come in and play that game. He'll be back.
If we'd been playing MK Dons last night, you wouldn't have seen Bruno, you wouldn't have seen Wilson, you wouldn't have seen So yeah, I think their squad and their team last night bears really no resemblance. My guess as to what we'll see on Monday. It would have been a bit foolish for them to even risk him last night, given the run the run that all these teams have got now. So, yeah, maybe we'll see them in the cup next round, and they'll be playing for us. I don't know. It'll be interesting.
I was going to say, I can't wait till January where he's in that number 10 row behind Isak and Wilson up front. That'd be superb.
Yeah. I was going to say, on the subject of the cup games, it was refreshing to see Premier League sides putting out proper teams, even against the lesser opposition. And I guess that's a feature of them having such a big break. It was just nice to see them not just, play the reserves and play the kids. It was good as an opportunity for them. Yeah, exactly. It was nice to see them properly taking it seriously.
Yeah, Leicester aren't in great form. Just a comment from BT there. Yeah, this is from Chris Davies, the assistant manager of Leicester. He said that Maddison is expected to be in contention in the squad. I'm with you, lads. I think he'll start. I think our fans will do the best they can to woo him a little bit, I think, from the away end. And there might be some cheeky little chances to throw Maddison's way. But, I don't believe these ITK talks of, he won't play against us because Leicester don't want him to get injured for the January window. You think, do me a favour. Leicester trying to get as many points on the board as they can. They're not going to rest their best player, arguably, against an informed Newcastle United. Because just looking at the Premier League form, going into it, Leicester aren't in superb form. So I think for me, we've got every good chance of getting another 3 points here. Just some predictions before we move on then, lads, to, I suppose, the last section of the night, which is quite a good one. Mark's been playing with some toys in the background, and he's excited to tell you about this. But just a match prediction, I suppose, Adam. So what's your thoughts on Leicester at the King Power, mate? What do you think?
I think we will win 2-0. Yeah, we're going to keep another clean sheet. Because I can't even picture teams scoring against us at the minute. I've never such a bizarre feeling. So yeah, we'll either win 2-0 or by the odd goal. But I'm pretty confident.
Yeah, I don't even think Moses could part our defense in a minute, mate. Especially with the bot man in there. He's absolutely
I love
amazing.
That man. I love that man. He's incredible.
What a player. Jamie Vardy, what is he? Is he 49 now, Mark? Jamie Vardy? He's still got a little bit of pace, isn't he? But I don't think he's going to get past these two, is he, mate?
I think he'll struggle. I think the stat is it's something like 5 goals conceded in 12 or 13 now since the Liverpool game. Amazing. So that record is pretty good. Let's be honest. And we'll go back to the Burn sort of section before. I think that's the reason why Burn's continuing to play, because they just look so solid. I think in terms of Leicester's form, I think you're a little bit harsh on them before by saying they're not in great form, because they've won 4 of their last 5.
I was looking at. I was actually looking at. It was the form guy between the two of us there. I was getting distracted with another bit on the article there, so that I was trying to backpedal, but he just made me look a twat. Thanks, Mark.
To be fair though, well, let's give you a little bit of credit here. Their home form isn't as good, so they've only won 2 of their last 5. So yeah, there you go. And they've only scored 9 goals at home so far this season. So they're not in brilliant form at home. I think in recent or in previous years, it's always been a tricky one for Newcastle, hasn't it, playing them? I think the form has been a little bit split.
It's always been a tough game, isn't it? But that was a different Newcastle United than we are now, isn't it? I mean, we're light years away from those teams where we used to be.
Well, I mean, you've only got to look at the form side in the Premier League. 5 wins from the last 5. It's barely conceding goals, scoring goals in the Premier League. So this is a game you're going into thinking, right, and Adam said before, you don't care who it is on Monday because you expect to win now. So going to Leicester, which was always a tricky one, I'd expect probably a 2-0. I think that'll be probably standard. I don't think that I struggle to see anything other than a win. Maybe if they get lucky with a free kick or a penalty, what Maddison's like for going down and stuff. So potentially something along those. But I think Newcastle have got far too much in reserve now. They've got plenty of gas in the tank, having not used much yesterday. And I think they will get back to winning ways in the league.
Absolutely. I think it might need goggles on between the dives between Maxi and Maddison. It might be who gets the highest score off the top board, I think, with them two going on the game. But we've got a comment there from BT saying Leicester won't be parking the bus. I think that's a good point. For me, I think because Leicester will go at us with the likes of Maddison and Vardy and Harvey Barnes, I think they'll leave themselves exposed. And I don't think they're great at the back. So I think we can catch them out. Certainly Wilson looks sharp as attack midweek. Miggy's got the pace, got the legs, he's in form. If Maxi plays, I think Maxi might get a start after that little cameo. I think he looked quite sharp and quite fresh. So that front 3 will cause any defence problems. And I think with Leicester trying to push on and go at us at home to get the crowd up, we could catch them on the break quite early on, to be fair. And I'm the same as you guys. I don't think it'll be a high-scoring game. I think 2-1. I think maybe they'll stick a goal back. Because they are good for a goal. They've got some very talented footballers. But yeah, for me, I'm going to go 2-1. So full house, Newcastle win. How good it is to feel so confident, lads, these days. One of these days, we'll say something come on Wednesday. Go, Christ, we got beat 4-0. Hopefully, it won't be Boxing Day. Hopefully, it won't be. So let the good times roll, as they say. So we're just going to finish up with the last section, and I'm going to pass you on to the main man himself, the stat man, who has been beavering away. We've got some exciting news about Evermore. So, Mark, tell everyone what you've been playing with. Sounds a bit wrong. What have you been doing behind the scenes?
Yeah, I was going to say, when you mentioned toys before, all I could picture was Ash's comments, and the opening up of the usual live podcast comments that we get in from the old sex bots. So
the sex bots.
I've probably done it now. That'll open it up.
Boom.
Here we go. So we had a chat about this. We started out this whole journey by starting a sort of a website. We did football articles that were general football. Obviously, it then evolved into Evermore last December, and the sort of the written side of things has kind of taken a backseat over recent months, just because of how much has gone on with the podcast channel and the YouTube channel. Just gone up there.
It's the best compliment you're going to get all year, that Ash. Take it, mate. Take it and enjoy it.
So we had a chat, didn't we? And we've sort of got some of the other lads, I think, that to get involved in this too. And I think we're going to sort of revisit and start looking at written stuff too, whether that's preview pieces, post-match, player rating, all that kind of stuff. I think most channels do things like it, but we give our own spin on it. And we'll pull in some generic football pieces, some historic football stuff, like the piece we did for the previous site. So we've set up a new site. I will bring it up in a second. It is evermorenufc.co.uk. Now we've moved away from the generic WordPress site, so I'm quite pleased with myself for actually doing that.
Is the link below, Mark? Is the link in the
link
description?
will be in the description. It isn't because I'm a knacker and I forgot to put it there. So
see, that's my revenge for that sports ball thing. I knew I'd get you back quick. So
thanks for that, man. So here we go. I'll bring up the site now. So there's a couple of new additions, obviously, with it. So you might want to expand your screen or turn your phone around or something. So there we go. Evermore, nufc.co.uk. And we'll go through the thing. So obviously we talked about blog posts. We're going to start putting some articles in there. My last one from the old site I've brought across, which is the story of the 95-96 season. Obviously, access to all the latest videos will go on there as well. Access to our social media channels. And the new addition to this is the Evermore shop. So again, I've been beavering around in the background and looking at some of the some sort of designs for different things. So these are available now. We've got a few little designs. So we've got Bruno in the middle t-shirt and mug. You've got hoodies for with the City United banner on. You've got what else we've got? We've got the who's that team we call United. The identity, I've spelled identity wrong. I need to redo. No, I haven't. Intensity is our identity. I can't speak properly. So there's a couple of different versions of that as well. So there's lots on there for you to have a look at. Obviously, if you're interested in that kind of thing, you can have a look at that. If you're not, it's absolutely fine. And then the link to the audio podcast as well is on there. So that is now live. It went live last night. Once I'd finally put the finishing touches to it. I think there's a couple of little kinks in the system at the moment, but I'll iron those out tonight. I think one of the links was broken for the social stuff. So yeah, it's live now. We'll start to get some articles put in there over the next few days, the next few weeks. So keep an eye out for those as well. And any updates we'll drop into the community chat on the podcast channel as well. But if you're not already following, drop us a follow on Twitter or the Facebook page, and all the articles will get linked on there as well. So you get involved in that too.
Fantastic. Just to answer your question, Roger. Yes, we're having a little dabble with it, mate. So feel free, dive in, treat yourself for Christmas, mate. I could just see you with a little Evermore hoodie on, watching the King's speech with a little whiskey, mate. Mind you, you won't get one that quick, probably. No fairness, it is the 21st. So,
delivery, I think, maybe after Christmas now. So
maybe next year's King's speech, possibly, mate. But you can watch the match with on, Roger. Who knows, mate? Who knows? But yeah, it's just a little dabble we're doing. Mark's been working really hard at it. As he does with everything else. He's done a class job of it. We've got some brilliant writers here. We all kind of started doing this as writers. We've got some really good writers on the channel. We spent more time talking about football than we have writing about football, but it'd definitely be articles worth checking out. Some really witty ones, some well written ones, some well researched ones. So it's just something we're doing on the side. We enjoy doing it. It's a nice outlet for obviously Mark, myself, and the rest of the guys as well. So yeah, just keep your eyes peeled. I'll bash a few up as the kind of the weeks and the months go on, and hopefully it'll be something you enjoy, just like the channel. So I think that's us pretty much wrapped up then, lads, for Christmas. So I suppose it's just for us to say thank you everybody who's tuned in tonight and everyone who's tuned in 2022 really. And I suppose we're just going to wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Same to you too, Adam, across the pond, mate. I hope everything's good over there.
Yeah, cheers, mate. Appreciate it.
Top man, no problem. So we'll be back, I'm sure, Mark, with maybe a preview for the Leicester game, possibly a post-match as well, unless I'm stuffed eating too many heroes and pissed out my brain, which is possibly going to be the case. It might be more interesting than the episode.
Yeah, I was going to say, so I think Monday there won't be a what's going on this Monday coming. No. We should be back on Wednesday live for our Evermore podcast. Then I'm hoping, yes, if we're fit and ready to go, we can do a preview and a post-match for the Leicester game, and then ongoing from there.
Absolutely. Some lovely comments there from the lads. Have a great Christmas, you two guys, as well. Let's keep supporting that team, McCoy United. Let's batter Leicester, and then Madison will want to come and join us even more. So that's us all done for this evening, guys. Have a cracking Christmas, and we'll catch you later.
Merry Christmas, guys.
Cheers.
See you later.